So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cyber Circuit. This is your weekly journey through the latest in gaming releases, tech innovations, and digital trends. So I invite you to join us as we navigate through the ever-evolving landscape of technology, bringing you an insightful discussions, some analysis, and exciting updates that will fuel your passion for all things digital. Join us live every Sunday at 7 p.m. on Twitch. We engage with our live studio audience, that's you, with a variety of questions throughout the show, giving you all the opportunity to participate. As a reminder, alerts are off if you are tuning in live here on Twitch. This will upload to YouTube. You can find us over at Cyberfueled IT on YouTube. Don't judge us. We've been a little slow with the content, but hopefully this changes that. So welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome. So today we're going to be covering a few things. We have a few different agendas that we're going to go over today. One is going to be upcoming game releases. This is going to go a little bit back from a couple weeks back to a little bit forward as some stuff that's coming out. We're going to focus on not everything, but we're going to focus on 3 every week. And that's it. My top 3 that I think are pretty influential or that I found interesting that was coming up. As we kind of move forward, I will have others probably vote and kind of give some feedback as to what they're most interested in, because I know there's a few in here that will be a little controversial to a couple of us. So every week we're going to go through these tops. So today we kick it off with the roundup of the hottest game releases that were hitting the shelves, either physically or digitally, and definitely some games from last week. So we have our upcoming... Oh, you're not going to work on me? Might actually help if I actually hit the button. All right, so new releases upcoming that are this week. Some of these have already been released, some of them have not. But we have Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, the expansion to the acclaimed Final Fantasy XIV MMO. Again, like I said, some controversial stuff here. The First Descendant, which released on July 2nd. And upcoming for next week is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, coming there. And one bonus one that came out was The Legend of Heroes, Trails Through Daybreak. So this is a kind of an offbeat one, something that's been interesting to me for a while, but that's what we have upcoming. Hey, these are upcoming ones. Don't you boo them. Do not boo them. They're upcoming ones. I didn't say we were going over season packs or season passes. This is what was on the list, folks. This is it. They're not my greatest picks either, but it's what we had out there. You boo what you want. College football 25 comes out next week. There you go, college football. Again, these were my choices. I will poll you all later. There will be more to come with this later. Maybe I'll let you all vote for them. How's that? It's the first in a series since 2013, the College Football 25. All right, well, I'm not a college football guy. I watch college football occasionally, but I haven't played a college football game. So in the future, maybe we'll take a note and let the community vote. There's a possibility for that. All right, latest game number 1 that we're going to throw up is Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. So I'm sure none of us don't need an explanation here or an introduction, but this is the latest to hit the Final Fantasy MMO. It released back on July 2nd. If you guys have not played Final Fantasy XIV, it's probably one of the better MMOs that are out there. It does have a very solid fan base, and it will scratch a Final Fantasy itch that you're all looking for. So it's a expansion that has kind of taken a breakaway from the current adventure and what it's done today. You get 2 new classes, a Viper, which is a dual-wielding kind of melee class, and a Pictomancer that is a throwback to kind of the Final Fantasy VI days, I believe, way back in the day, which is a ranged magical caster. Along with the new graphical enhancements to all your base games, the expansion is available on PS5, Xbox, and PC. It's not available today on Switch, so you Switch folks are going to have to set that out. So unfortunately, that's what you got. So a lot of folks have played Final Fantasy XIV. A lot of folks have been anticipating this because there are a number of things. And recently, Final Fantasy has come to Xbox, which I know our lovely community member, Stargazer Tim, had an awful experience with how Xbox handles transactions when it comes to subscription-based models on Xbox. And it's awful. It is terrible. So maybe one day we'll be able to get him back into it, but it's been the summer, and I think the only person that's really been playing is Buttersworth, wherever he sits today. I think he's been grinding it pretty heavily. But Final Fantasy XIV, again, that came out on July 2nd. It is available for all of you folks today. So yeah, again, Final Fantasy XIV. Go check it out. It's fun. It's a good MMO. Everybody loves it except for Dustin. Okay. So that's what we have for the very first game, kind of more an expansion pack, but again, you get a lot of things coming out of Final Fantasy XIV, and this will probably be the last time that I talk about this for a good long time. So we can then move on. It's grindy, but better than Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, I haven't played either, so I couldn't tell you. All right, the next game up that we have is the first, actually, no, I'm wrong. The First Descendant. The First Descendant, I do not know much about this outside of it was recently released, and it looks like a mashup of Anthem, Warframe, Destiny, and whatever else you can kind of throw together in the blender, and you get the First Descendant. It is a futuristic third-person looter shooter where you face off against a variety of enemies, various missions, and it looks like massive kaiju-looking bosses where you have to take them down. Super futuristic. There is a grappling hook, which tends to be pretty cool for a lot of people. It looks pretty awesome. It is a live service game, but there's been some controversy around the live service piece as a microtransaction hell for the most part. So a lot of people have compared this to Warframe and Destiny, but the microtransactions have really eaten into it because they do some really controversial stuff. I really hope this doesn't fall into the live shooter and live service game to where the failures and they actually fix it. So we'll actually see exactly what happens from a dev perspective and what they're going to do with that. So I have not played it, but for those that have played the First Descendant, what are your thoughts on it? Is it good? Is it bad? What are some of the biggest drawbacks? Because I've heard overall it's a really good game, but I've also heard that the microtransactions and all the stuff that goes into it are pretty bad. So can you live with the bad, and is it still worth it, or does it fall short of expectations? So I'll open it up to the live audience. Has anybody actually played this that's in the audience? Throwing some gacha payment mechanics, and that's pretty much spot on. So there's gacha like loot boxes in there. Ooh, gacha loot boxes. I don't know about that. Kind of. Dustin says it's okay. It's not terrible, but does feel like another looter shooter that doesn't really add anything new. That's kind of what I was. It's kind of what I was getting to from what I've been seeing. Like it looks really, really cool, and the whole kaiju thing has got me like, this is pretty cool. Massive bosses to go off, but welcome in, Damien. Welcome in. Dad. Unfortunately, it feels like it's a little bit of a hit or miss for me on this one. So maybe if I hear some other things, I'll get into it. But some folks seems like they've been having a good time with it. Others, I've heard in the very beginning, like you can't fail either. Like there's no failure to where when you're playing it, like you can't die. Like it's just impossible. You can just stand there and people can shoot you and just don't die. So Star User Tim says the gun play is pretty good. Many of the skills and abilities are also good. Mobility goes from really good on some characters to overall anyone with a grappling hook, and it's extremely grindy. Oof. I don't like grindy. Wow, that's some good feedback. All right. Next we have on the list is Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. So this one is a little bit different, and it looks incredibly interesting to me. It's kind of like this old colonial style mix with like, I guess you fighting off Army of the Dead type deal. So I also get some pretty big Forspoken vibes through Flintlock. From what I understand, it's an open world game that will focus on you as Nor Vanek and Enki, which is a fox-like companion, as you battle against the gods and a massive army of the dead, which is really cool. because this one has like intrigued me for a little bit, especially with like some of the artwork and themes that they have going on here with the game. It looks really, really good. I'm probably not going to get it on day one, but it's magic and gunpowder and explosives. It does kind of get a little bit close to this. So again, comes out, I want to say on the 18th of July. So next Friday. It's available on PC, Xbox, and PS5. And I think I saw Dustin say it comes out Games Pass. Is this one that's coming to Games Pass on day one? Because if it comes on Games Pass, I will grab it. I did not realize it was coming to Games Pass if that's the case. So it does look super cool. A lot of skill trees, a lot of certain things that go into it. That's soon. You'll play it on Games Pass later. You believe so? Okay, I'll take a look. I will take a look. But yeah, this one is really cool. You get like this Indian tomahawk thing and blunderbusses and flamethrowers and all different sorts of stuff. So again, hopefully it's really good. I guess we'll find out. But then a little hit or miss with some Games Pass games lately, so we'll have to wait and see. And we do have some updates on Games Pass because, ladies and gentlemen, Games Pass has changed. So we'll get into that a little bit later here in the show. All right. And the last upcoming game that actually came out already is The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak. Now, for those that are not familiar with this series, it is a series and probably one of the longest JRPG series that's out there. It started roughly 20 years ago in 2004 with this series opener called Trails in the Sky. And I want to say it came out on like PS2, whatever 2004 was. Been out for a while. Now, I am not an expert on the series because I've not really played a lot of these, and they also weren't released in the West until like 2010 and 2011. So it's been a while. So, example, there's 2 games from the series that came out respectively in 2022 and 23 that were released 10 years earlier in Japan. So if you are a big JRPG buff, this is an ongoing series that has a number of story arcs across 15 different games. Each one has different playable characters, different combat styles, and in its JRPG fashion are incredibly long, upwards of 100, 120 hours to fully complete the games. So this series is something that has always been interesting to me, but JRPGs unfortunately are incredibly long and sometimes just a little bit too grindy. But has anybody heard of the Legend of Heroes series? If you have you guys played any of them? Are you interested in them, or are any of you actual longtime JRPG fans? Chime in below or in chat, wherever you are. So this one looks a little bit interesting. If you've done your JRPG stuff and you played RPGs like this, supposedly they're very, very good games. They have very good stories, very good story arcs, but sometimes they're not everybody's cup of teas. But I did throw this out there because it's a little bit different than all the other stuff that we go with, so figured give this one a shot. Maybe it strikes somebody's interest because there's a lot of good JRPGs that are out there today. And a lot of these are available on Switch. A lot of them are on PS4 still, PS5, PC, and Xbox, so they've hit them all. And even some of the legacy systems that are out there today, which is really nice. So, that's Legend of Heroes, Trails Through Daybreak. I wipe my nose because I can't get over this stupid cold. All right, so those were the 4 latest and greatest games that we have coming up. Now, there's also a few hidden gems that I would like to sprinkle out through here. These are hidden gems that I found were different and interesting, as well as hidden gems that you've maybe never heard of. And a lot of people probably have never heard of these. So we've got some hidden gems that are coming up, and that is Megaton Musashi W Wired. We have Trinity Trigger, and we have 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. So some of these are newer, some of these are older. All of these are available on, I believe, every platform, which is one reason why I picked them. So they're all available on Switch. They're all available on PS4, PS5. I think they're all on PC, and I think they're available on everything. Maybe not Xbox. Never heard of any of them, says Dustin. That's the point. That's the point. There's a reason you probably didn't hear of a few of these. So I'm going to start off with the Megaton Musashi Wired is the very first one that we'll start off with. So Megaton Musashi Wired is basically one that I guarantee you've never heard about, and that's partly because their publisher did not do any marketing for this game whatsoever, so it's super obscure. Basically, it is a JRPG type Armored Core fighting game. And it's not like your fighting game like 1v1 type deal, but it's Armored Core where you get into a mech, which are called rogues in this case, and you can customize the hell out of it to go forward and battle a bunch of different aliens for the most part. You're fighting aliens in this one. So kind of cool. It's an incredibly in-depth game when basically you can customize your rogue down to specific components, and I'll get to that here in a second. So when you're not in your rogue, it is actually a side scroller. It is not turn-based. It is an action-oriented one. So when you're not in your rogue, you are actually in a side-scrolling game where you interact with a number of characters and you play out your story. As you progress through the story, you have a little bar that will fill up to when your next mission becomes available. During that downtime, you can tune your rogues, you can build components. No, it's not a side scroller. Don't pass on it just yet, Dustin. It's only side scrolling through the story. That's it. So during this time, you can configure your mech. Now, your mech can be configured at a number of components. You can pick your own motherboard. You can pick your own motherboard layout. You can pick your own capacitors and skills that go into the motherboard. You can develop new components and circuits as you go through and collect items. As you fight, and the fight when you get into it is fully 3D, you get special attacks, you get kicks, you get ultimates, you get variety of weapons. They're all leveled, so it's like a looter shooter. So you get from your bare minimum common all the way up to legendary items that you can equip onto your rogue. And it is fully 3D where you can fight across it. It's not as fast paced as Armored Core, but it is incredibly in depth from a mech and rogue customization, which is really interesting. You can really customize the rogue to anything you like. You can paint it, you can pick different arms, you can pick different legs, different torso, configure each and every single item. There's augments for each and every single one. It is wildly in depth. The story, it's a pretty janky story. So, Pinky Fuzzy Dice to hang in the cockpit, because of show you should have led with that. I don't know if you can get the Pinky Fuzzy Dice to hang in the cockpit, but you can take a cockpit view, which allows you to actually repair individual components that are critically damaged when you're playing throughout the game. So, need to see some gameplay. It is very hard to find gameplay on this game, Dustin. It is so obscure. There might be a few on YouTube, but I had a tough time finding an actual solid video of gameplay that wasn't going to infringe me where I pulled other people's content. So I actually have a copy of the game. I plan on streaming it, hopefully here in a little bit. It's all voiced with JRPG. Not JRPG. It's all Japanese voiceover, so there's no English to it, but it's all like, you just got to read through all of it. But if you can get over like the little quips with it, it's actually pretty in-depth. So I will have that coming up in the stream here, hopefully, I don't know, whenever we finish Elden Ring or whatever else is going on. But that is Megaton Musashi W Wired. So if you're interested in like a really in-depth kind of mech/game, take a look at it, find some gameplay. It's really wild and in-depth. It's pretty crazy. So that is Megaton Musashi. Up for number 2 with the hidden gem is Trinity Trigger. Now, I've been playing this game on and off stream pretty much prior to going to bed for the last few weeks. It's been out for over a year. And it's been in my backlog since I pre-ordered the day 1 edition, I don't know, over a year ago, whenever it came out. So it is your old school classic SNES Secret of Mana vibes, or Secret of Evermore. It's your top down, you play as a character, go through. I have been playing this, yes. Basically, you play as Cyan, who's the warrior of chaos, and there's a prophecy that basically is told that you need to do battle against the warrior of order. So it plays very top down, a Secret of Mana, Secret of Evermore. You collect trinities, which are your weapons. You get a spear, you get axes, bows, fists, all different sorts of stuff. You get your iconic wheel system, just like Secret of Mana, where you pick your items. And as you level up, you get technical points, which are assigned to your various weapons, and you level up their skills. So higher your skills go, more damage you do. Additionally, you also collect items and craft what they call manatites, which are basically augments for your weapons or augments for your armor. So each weapon can have up to 3 manatites for attack and 3 for defense, and you can customize them however you want. Crafting is also a pretty huge element in this. So as you craft, it's cheaper than actually purchasing things. So the more you collect, the more you craft, the cheaper it is. Bob's your uncle, everybody's happy. So it's actually better to craft your potions than it is to buy them outright to save my money that way. So overall, it's a very solid game. If you've been holding out for like Visions of Mana, or you've got an affliction with nostalgia games like Secret of Mana, give it a shot. It's on Switch, it's on PS4, PS5, and PC. So probably on Xbox as well. But it's pretty much on every console out there. But if you've been holding out for kind of a Secret of Mana, this is one for you guys. So definitely worthwhile. Has anybody ever heard of this? I'm taking probably not by much. Again, these are pretty obscure ones. So Stargazer says, used to love the old Mana series. Yeah, old Mana series were really good. So they do have another one coming out called Visions of Mana, Tim. They're coming out in, I think, August of this year. So, but that is Trinity Trigger. Never cared for the Mana series. You heretic, you. How dare you? That's all right. All right. Hidden Gem number 3. Hidden Gem number 3. This is the 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim. This one came out in 2019. It's basically about 13 time-traveling warriors. You play throughout a series of time periods from 1945 all the way to 2105. You get some definitely James Cameron Terminator-esque stuff that comes into play. Basically, your 13 warriors, when they travel back in time, are naked because you can't transport physical things over, such as clothing. So they pilot 13 Sentinels, which are basically giant kaiju fighting machines that can travel across a variety of times. Now, this one is another mecha-style game. You play the game as a side-scroller, very similar to Megaton Musashi, as I mentioned earlier, kind of depicted in the video there. That's the story mode. But when you actually play the game, it's played in a real-time strategy style with your mechs. So you'll get a very top-down tactical overview to actually combat every single mission as you kind of build out the story. So it is a different take on those mecha-style games. And it did come from Atlas, and Atlas usually puts out some pretty good stuff. But it's one of those hidden gems. It's relatively cheap. I want to say it was on like PS Plus not too long ago. But if you're interested in kind of like an RTS-style mech-type game, give it a shot. It's definitely worthwhile. And it's got a relatively good Switch only. I guess sound alerts still work. I'll have to fix that. Switch only? No, it's on PS4. Don't think that's on Xbox. But it's Switch, PS4. It might be on Xbox as well. I could take a look and see. I thought I wrote down if they were all on Xbox or Switch. It is on PS4, PS5, and Switch. I did it. It's up in my notes. So it's not on Xbox, unfortunately. All right. And that is Hidden Gem number 3. So I'll turn it over to you guys. Do any of those actually look interesting to you? Or are you just going to go tell me to shove it? And what would you rather see instead? Or have you discovered hidden gems yourself that you guys like to share with the class? Because I'm open to suggestions on hidden gems, as well as what you guys are all playing this week. And Janessa will tell me to shove it. Thank you very much. I will take that into accordance. And I will also tell security to escort you out of the lobby. Thank you. Just kidding, I'm not interested. That's all right. Is Sleeping Dogs a hidden gem? I don't know. It might be. You'll con your way back in. I expect nothing less of you, Janessa. I expect nothing less. So yeah, that's kind of our first pass and our first run through of upcoming games and hidden gems. So I think in the future, it sounds like a little bit more gameplay. Unfortunately, I don't have the time through the week to grab all of these and record gameplay, and I feel guilty stealing from somebody else's gameplay. Should I feel guilty about stealing somebody else's gameplay? Do I have to ask permission if I steal their gameplay for a video with no audio? Should that be a guilty feeling? I mean, everybody else does it. I mean, why shouldn't I just do it? Just do it, says Janessa. All right. Who cares? Well, I guess I'm such a nice guy that I actually care. God forbid I actually care. Jeez Louise. Jeez Louise. All right, so that is our first segment that covers the upcoming games as well as hidden gems. Moving on, we are going to get into On the Horizon tech and some tech news. And for this, I'm going to pull up a fancy PowerPoint slide that I've made, because this will keep me sane as I go through this. All right. Cutting over to the latest and greatest for news. Fancy professionalism. Yes, we're on the news segment. I even got a little fancy intro thing there. Fancy for sure. All right. First thing that we're going to bring up is the Xbox Games Pass changes. Over the last week, Xbox has made some changes to their Games Pass program, and it's changing quite a bit. Latest and greatest stealing from Expecto Go. Did I really steal that from Expecto Go? He's not going to care. He didn't copyright that. Don't hate me, James. I didn't actually mean to steal that. All right. So, Xbox Games Pass changes. What we've got going on is a price increase. Number one. So, Xbox Games Pass Ultimate is going up in price. It is going from $16.99 to $19.99. That tier includes all of your day one releases, the full game catalog, online multiplayer, your cloud gaming, EA membership, and access to both Xbox consoles and PC. There are additional changes downstream that will be impacted. Your Games Pass Standard will cost $15 a month when it launches. This is the new one. It will include online multiplayer and access to a back catalog of hundreds of games, but does not include day one releases. A little controversial there. Your Xbox Games Pass Core, which I have in here twice. We can ignore one of those lines. Remains at $9.99, but a 12-month subscription is going up from $59 to $74.99. This tier includes online multiplayer and a small catalog of just over 25 games. So very, very limited for that. Now, the last one is your Xbox Games Pass for console. It's $11 a month for existing subscribers, but you can no longer sign up for it. It's gone. If you turn off your automatic payments and your memberships lapse, you lose access and you will need to join a different plan. You can continue to redeem codes for this tier and stack them to ensure continued access, but from September 18th, the maximum extension will be 13 months. This tier includes day one, the full game, but includes online multiplayer. So, you've got Games Pass Ultimate, Standard, Core, and now the Games Pass for console, which sounds like will be deprecated within the next 14 months. So, this set off a lot of bells for a lot of people. It almost sounds like Microsoft is backpedaling from their entire digital side of the house when they've been pushing everything going digital with day one releases for a lot of the games. So, your Standard no longer includes day one releases. You get multiplayer, backlog, but no longer with day one unless you go with Ultimate. In Core, you get online multiplayer and a small collection of games. Now, I don't know if those games will rotate every 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks like Games Pass games do today, or if these are a set number of games very similar to what PlayStation did when they first launched the PS5 and gave you exclusive games for, I don't know, it was like 18 or 24 months. They gave you option to like download these 12 games as part of PS Plus when they offered that at one point. And you can get that for free, and that included a lot of PS4 games and PS5 games and stuff like that, which was a really good thing, but they no longer offer that, so we'll see. So Stargazer Tim says, the one thing I wish they would do is offer a yearly sub, maybe with incentive to sub that way. So for instance, if you sign up for a year, offer for $200, saving you $40 a year. Yeah, I wish more companies would do that, to be honest. Would do a larger yearly subscription to save instead of bundling in a yearly monthly payment. Honestly, I wish Netflix and Hulu and all of them did that. I know Disney used to, but they don't anymore, which is crappy. So this is what we have going on for those Xbox Games Pass changes. It is a little interesting to say the least. I myself used Games Pass Ultimate because I use the games on the PC. I have the EA Play membership tied in, which helps quite a bit when you're looking at some of the EA titles. And then Space Cadet uses them for pretty much all of the full game catalog that she plays on Xbox, which, let's be honest, is mostly free games, but she has that ability to do so if need that. So, how does everybody feel about these changes? Personally, with the step back from the day one releases, it sounds like Microsoft and the publishers took a pretty big hit when they offered day one releases on all of those tiers. So now they're forcing folks to either purchase those games that are in the standard tier or the core, or they're forcing you to go to Ultimate. So it's a little interesting. It's a little interesting on what they're trying to do. So, which is kind of crazy because they've pushed the latest consoles, and I want to say the last, if I'm not mistaken, in the last like game showcase that they did, they pushed that new console that was an all digital console, if I'm not mistaken. The other benefit is if you buy on one from many platforms, you get the other. So I have all my MechWarrior 5 stuff on Xbox and PC. Xbox Games Pass changes. Again, chime off in the comments. Again, I'm not super thrilled with them. Price increases, definitely some changes. I'm sure some people will feel this hit their wallets, but that is what we have. So that is latest from last week for what we have for Xbox Games Pass changes. Now, upcoming for what we have for some very fun stuff is AMD releases. We have some AMD Ryzen 9000 series processors. These are AM5 processors that are being released sometime in July. I think they're the end of July is what I keep hearing, like July 30th. They've been teasing these since Computex of 2024. They are pretty beastly. Look, PC stuff. Well, we're going to break down your PC stuff for you, Dustin. That's what we do here. So, since most of you are looking at this and probably going, this is a foreign language, I'm going to simply break down exactly what all of this means. So, between Ryzen 9, Ryzen 7, and Ryzen 5, those are the series of the processors. That's how they bin out the processors in the silicone, and they put them into a series based on how good they actually are. So, some of these are enthusiast models, some of them are more your entry, but for the most part, what you want to look at is the Ryzen 5, Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9, your cores and your thread counts, max boosts, your cache, and what's TDP is your total power. So basically, the more cores and the more threads you got and the faster boost, the better the chip is usually. That's the concept of it, but it's not always the case. But coming in July 2024, these are going to sit in the current lineup. Thread counts, these are bad sheets or bed sheets. Well, they're bad thread counts for, I mean, if you have a 16 thread sheet, I don't know if I'd want to sleep on that. Might be sleeping with like bristle. But basically 16 cores and 32 threads, 12 cores and 24 threads, 8 cores and 16 threads, and 6 cores with 12 threads. Basically what this means is you have multiple cores on a single chip with a variety of threads where it can actually do work. So what they're looking at is a big increase here of the IPC, which is your instructions per cycle or instructions per clock and cycle. Basically what that means is how many instructions can go through a single clock cycle, which is tied directly to how fast they are. Higher number, the better, pretty much. So, for example, your 9950s are going to be your top of the line, 9900X, step down, 9700X, one step down, and 9600. So these are your CPUs that will be coming towards the end of the month. Now there's a catch here. So AMD has always been very good at kind of forward thinking and support. So these currently sit on what's known as a socket, and a socket is what the actual CPU sits in. Now that socket is what's known as AM5. Now prior to that, they had AM4 and they had AM3. AM5 socket has been out since roughly 2022, 2023, give or take. I want to say the past year and a half, 2 years. These will work on any AM5 socket that's out there as long as you're able to upgrade them with a BIOS flash. So if you were to go out, and let's say you had an AM5 board, even if it's a lower end, and we'll get into the boards here in a sec, you can go out and you can purchase one of these chips. And as long as you update the BIOS with the latest code for these chips, they will be supported, which is something Intel doesn't always do. Or if they do it for a very short window. And what that tends to happen is you lose support. So every single time you have to upgrade, you have to buy a new motherboard and you have to buy a new CPU. AMD elongates that a little bit where they keep support of their sockets for 5 to 7 years. So keep that in mind. So these are coming out at the end of July is what everybody's been targeting. They've been pushing them since Computex and before. We've all known that they've been coming. So that is great news. Moving forward, the Zen 5 is looking at a 16% on average uplift versus their prior generation. All of this is gibberish. It cannot compute. You'll get there. I have promise. So basically, this right here is a chart that shows the increase for each different application or game that the new CPUs are going to show. And you can see they're anywhere from on an average of about 16%. So what this basically means is when they've tested all these, and again, these are synthetic tests, they are specific to AMD. Take these with a grain of salt. Look at your third party and your other reviewers and all of that stuff down the road because it's marketing at the end of the day. So for example, just to break this out, the faster the IPC, which is your instructions per cycle, the greater you'll see an increase on most of your applications. So for example, a game, Far Cry 6, they saw a rough 10% increase. Handbrake, which is an encryption encoding type thing for videos or whatever it may be, they saw an 11% increase. Kraken, 3D Mark, they saw 12 to 13% increases. So what they're basically saying in here is as they've tested some of these applications, they're seeing faster response time versus the Zen 4, which was last generation. So that's all these say. So again, probably a lot of gibberish. I'll try to tone it down a little bit. So what that means is as they move forward with these, there'll be new chipsets that are coming out, new boards that are coming out to support all this stuff. One of those boards is the X870. That is the chip that's going on their new motherboard that will be released in September. Now, AMD, again, like I said, likes to support their sockets as they move forward. So the X870 launches in September, but the chip is launching in July. So that means that if you have an older board, such as an X670, you can use those new chips in those boards when they release. They like to keep that longevity there. And there's rumor and confirmation from AMD that they are going to support this specific socket until 2027, which means if you bought a last gen board, so an X670 or a B650, those are the board chipsets. If you bought one of those, you can technically run any of their released chips all the way up through 2027. It gives you a long runway for upgrading to the latest and greatest as you go through for whatever AMD is offering. So it gives you a very big runway to keep on upgrading. And for example, some of the biggest changes that are coming with the AMD chipsets that will be released at the end of September are USB 4.0, on all of their boards, which for anybody that's used a lot of USB applications, it just basically means you're going to get faster USB devices. They've got PCIe, which is a slot on a motherboard, and they go through different generations for either your graphics card or your hard drives. Now, Gen 5 is the latest generation. So basically, either a hard drive, known as an NVMe, or a graphics card, such as your GPU, AMD, NVIDIA, whatever it may be, those will support the latest generation on those boards, which is pretty good. So that's another kicker as to why that's a little bit important. The last but not least is you've got your higher AMD memory support. Now, this is a big one because AMD has had issues with memory compatibility in the past, so they're really pushing the higher support for memory. You're going to be quizzed on this after? Nah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. So, with the releases of the new chips and the releases of the new boards, you're going to basically have the opportunity to either use a current gen that's out there or the latest when it comes out in September. You have options, which has always been a good thing from AMD. Now, the last slide that we have is just the older board here, which is the X670. Again, this slide here just showcases the older boards that are still going to support that socket and that chipset. So this board here, it retails for about $210. You could buy this board today, install a current CPU today. When the new CPUs come out, you could pop the old one out, put the new one in, as long as you've updated the BIOS, install it, and boot the machine, and you'd upgrade your machine with a new CPU. And it's all supported. And that will last all the way until 2027. Oh, it's cough. Janessa, you are the ADH kid who can't sit still during lessons. Don't worry about it. All right, well, that's my fancy slideshow that I have. That's the fancy slideshow. So that is some of the tech that is coming here in a little bit of time. So AMD is a big one. There's some things coming down the pipe. So again, support through 2027. It's super important as you go through. It supports your current motherboards. It's something that is viable for a lot of folks. So this area is a little tricky because unless you know exactly what I'm talking about, you guys are glazing over, probably drooling on yourselves and your bibs. So, but we're going to cover a few other things that we go through with this. And one of those things is Intel, the competitor to AMD, is in hot water. Now, how did I know you were drooling? I used to teach computer science. I know a thing or two. So, I don't have any slides for this because there's still a bunch of reports out there, but there is a really, really good video, if anybody's interested in it, by Level 1 Techs over on YouTube. Wendell over there talks about this, about the current generation of Intel processors, which are the 13th and 14th gen, which is generation, with constant crashes of upwards of pretty much 60% of some of the data sets that he got were crashing. AMD, on the other hand, with that same data set, roughly 4. So he basically was able to receive some crash reports from a variety of like server companies and data centers and all of that stuff. And when he pulled the information, out of 1,584 errors, 1,400 of those were Intel that crashed consistently. So, and it primarily revolved around a specific error type that Intel was crashing, and Intel has no way of fixing it, and they blame a lot of other people. So for right now, the 13th and 14th gen for the crashes for basically anything with Intel for their high-end CPUs, which are their 13900K and 14900K, steer clear. Definitely not worthwhile at this time. Definitely not worthwhile. So AMD is a little bit more stable on that front, and even some of the data center providers have been pushing people towards AMD machines for some of their game servers versus Intel, just because of the stability issues they've been having. They've been costing a lot of money from the data center side with crashes and support and everything else. So just food for thought. I don't have any. I was going to go over the latest release for Intel, which is Arrow Lake, which is their Z890 boards and their chipsets. But not worth it because of all the crashes and stuff going on. AMD used to run hotter than Intel. Is that generally still the case, or does that even matter anymore? So it doesn't really matter anymore, Tim, when it comes to heat. It all depends on how fast you can dissipate it. Both Intel and both AMD run hot. Like, if they're running and operating normally at like 90 to 95 Celsius, that's normal, especially on some of the newer chips. Like, they just run hot, especially those Intels. Those Intels run really hot. So we're getting back into it's starting to trend. So for the longest time, a lot of people did water cooling because they like to overclock and push their components as far as they could. Now it's kind of switched back to where people didn't need to do that because the PCs were very efficient with thermal dissipation. You could get by with like an all-in-one water cooler or an air cooler, whatever it may be. But now those custom water loops and computers are coming back because these chips are running so hot. There isn't a good enough all-in-one or air cooler to dissipate all of that heat off of those. So people start getting into thermal throttling and crashing. So custom water cooling is making kind of its headway back into that, to where they can keep the heat down, they can crank up those settings. So it's kind of shifted because these chips run so freaking hot. So it's kind of a different take on what they've got, which is kind of interesting how you're seeing that pendulum kind of swing back and forth. The downside is custom water cooling PCs are expensive. All the components, the fittings, the tubing, the time, and doing maintenance on custom water cooled machines just becomes painful. So that's the other thing you got to keep in mind with all certain stuff like that. So at a lot of times it's, do you want a custom water cooled one? Cool. If you don't, you don't have to go with it. But there is extended maintenance with it. 6K? What's 6K? What's 6K? For a custom water cooled? On an average? Because I could agree with that. Between the water blocks and the fittings. On an average, depending on what you're buying, out of pocket, from a parts perspective, and if you find the right fittings and everything, you could probably look at about 42 to 4,500 out of pocket for all fittings, all parts, all tubing, the blocks. But you can easily go above that if you were doing multi-radiator support, additional fittings, multiple pumps, the fans. You could easily put in to about 6K. But for the blocks themselves, if you're doing a GPU block and if you're doing a CPU block, those blocks alone are about anywhere from 175 to 300 each. So depending on what you find, it could be anywhere from 5 to 700, give or take, to get all of that. So, and you've also got to look at, you got to get real tricky, because when you look at fittings and you look at the metal types, you need to look at the types of metals that are going through and the fluid you're actually putting through it as well, because you can get corrosion from different metal types and all different sorts of stuff. So you want to look for like brass and copper and stuff like that, to where you're not going to get those issues. Tim, you had one water-cooled system. The pump pooped the bed after a year or so you bought a brass sink and threw that on. It's still working? Yeah? Yep. I'm talking PC loop, zombie. PC loops. Server loops or something else. So yeah, water cooling is definitely making its comeback when it comes to certain things. It's still god-awfully expensive. It's one of those things where I probably wouldn't truly recommend it if you're just getting into PC building, because if you ever have to do maintenance or you ever have to try and maintain that water loop, there's a lot more that goes into it than just swapping out an air cooler or swapping out, an AIO pump. Your risk at leaks, you can get leaking through that as well. Compressions can fail, and fittings can fail, whatever it may be. Gaskets, you get sludge buildup. You probably should drain and clean stuff like that. Yeah, PC loop would not be over 1K. Yeah, they really shouldn't be. But it all depends on what you're adding, Zombie, right? If you're doing multiple radiator support or you're doing a specific block, a distribution block, whatever it may be, it can get pretty pricey with those blocks more than anything. How are they at condensation? It's a sealed loop, right? It's a sealed loop. So as long as you're consistently have water in there, you'll be fine. And no condensation is going to actually form on the outside of it. On the tubing itself, you won't get condensation. It doesn't cool to that effectiveness, right? So there's no difference between the ambient temperature and the inside temperature to the extent to where you'll generate condensation on the outside. But the good thing about the water loops is you can place components pretty much anywhere in the loop that you want, because it's a closed loop as it goes through. The entire thing gets like pressurized and you don't have to worry about where placements or pumps go. You can pretty much put them anywhere, which is really nice. You have a 3 rad system plus GPU, and you believe it was about $1,100. Yeah, about $1,100 for all that. Yep. But that's $1,100 on top of something that, if you want to get an AIO, that AIO could be anywhere from $100 to $200, right? To cool your processor, and then just a bunch of system fans. It's a lot more to get into that than it is to just, than from an AIO perspective. It's just a lot more to get into, and there's a lot more maintenance to it and a lot more to learn. So definitely not one of those things that's definitely an entry-level type thing, but it doesn't mean you can't learn it. So don't be afraid to get into it. Just know that there's more to it, more maintenance, more things to maintain, more things to monitor. So you just got to go into that with that knowledge of, okay, I'll have to constantly check certain things, whatever it may be. Well, EK builds are stupid expensive. I was one for EK for a long time. For those that don't know, EK is a brand for water blocks. They're a very known brand in the water cooling communities. Unfortunately, they've had a little bit of some issues internally. There's been some investigations and issues with workers and stuff like that. They've taken a pretty big hit. They're trying to come back from it for the most part. But they haven't paid vendors. They haven't paid content creators. There's a lot of things. People are not recommending EK right now because of that fallout until they get their shit together and actually pay people. There's a little bit of a gap there. So, but there's other brands. There's other things. Alpha Cool is very good. Relatively cheaper too. And they've been pretty fantastic. That was one of the ones that I used in my last build, was an Alpha Cool. So, but very good stuff. Very good stuff. All right, so that is basically what we're going to cover for some of that tech news that we had today. So again, AMD AM5 9000 series desktop CPUs, they are coming out towards the end of July. The chipsets and the motherboard should be out the end of September. Again, nothing to worry about. You can still use the current gen on current AM5 sockets. Perfectly fine. And again, I'm skipping over anything with Intel's 15th gen just because of all of the issues Intel has with their 13th and 14th gen. If you want a pretty big deep dive, again, go check out Level 1 Techs over on YouTube. Wendell has a recent video that came out about 4 days ago. He probably has no idea who I am, but you can go check out his video. He did a really good job on it. So it's the easiest way to walk through it. And then being an old fart now, you don't have a wherewithal to crawl around inside of a box or the regular anymore. You need a low maintenance, no maintenance as you can get. That is the all-in-ones. All-in-ones are honestly air cooler. And you don't need some high-end super tier stuff to get what you want. You can get into gaming and computing for relatively low entry, $1,200 to $1,500. If you want to game at 1080p, even at 1440, you can probably find the pieces you need to get into that at that level. There's going to be some expensive parts. Primarily your graphics card is going to be the most expensive piece out of that whole thing to get you into that niche that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be this $8,000 monster of a machine so you can go play Minecraft. Doesn't have to be. And these machines will last you nowadays a very long time. I mean, just for example, I'm running a machine that I built, and I want to say 2019 or 2020. It's already been 4 years. So, and it does everything I need it to do. All I do is upgrade components, and I haven't upgraded a single component on it since I built it. And I probably don't expect to upgrade unless I really need to go to 4K or 8K gaming. Pencil you in towards the end of the year. May need to talk. We'll talk. We'll get you something. You don't got to go overkill. A lot of people like to think they need the latest and greatest, but case in point, the latest and greatest from Intel is causing hell with people in games crashing. Their games, specifically their games, are crashing on 13th and 14th gen, where they have to go in and they have to tinker and they have to lower voltages and they have to do all this crap, and they crash. And it's honestly, that would drive me insane. And it's all CPU related. And they're starting to connect the dots. And Intel was blaming graphics cards or game developers, and now everybody's starting to put the data sets together, and they're starting to see this trend of these processors are just causing these crashes over everybody else. And it's even on different main boards. It's on like your W680 chipsets, which is a very stable chipset. You wonder if that's what's been biting Expecto Go? I don't know what he built. I know he built a pretty big machine. I don't remember his processor that he built. And it's so far out there, it's hard to track down exactly what that issue is for the most part. But I don't remember if he built a 14 or a 13900K system. I don't know. I don't know if he added that, but it could be part of it. It could be part of it. It's been crashing on random stuff. Yeah, I'll have to talk to him again. He was supposed to reach out to me a little bit, but we kept missing each other. Okay. So the last thing that I have is a little bit of a spotlight for some things that have recently come out that I think are pretty nifty when it comes to some of the latest releases for certain things. So I'm going to bring up the page here in a sec. This is a company that does some really cool case designs. And I've been pretty much showcasing these more recently because they were one of the more interesting ones at Computex for some of the things that they're kind of getting into. So we're going to share my screen out again here. So we're going to take a look at Fractal. Now, Fractal is a company that they do a number of cases. They're getting into headphones. They're getting into office chairs. They're starting to expand their product line. And Fractal's got some really neat things that are coming, even if they might not be the smartest idea. So, for example, we've got some new cases that are coming out, and one of those cases is called the Mood. Now, the Fractal Mood is what they call a chimney style case. As you can see, it kind of goes up and down, very similar to a chimney. Very similar to an Xbox Series X, which is the same concept, right? It's a chimney. It's got a big fan on the top. There's been a few reviews on this. It is not the greatest design in practice because it is mesh surrounding, but it goes very, I would say, very elegantly with an open concept. If you wanted like a media center type PC to where this would sit kind of next to your, on the floor somewhere or up off the floor, because I know people don't put your PCs on the floor, but somewhere in the room where you can actually host a media center. It does come in two different colors. It comes in like a gray right here, and it comes with a black as well. So those are the only two colors that it comes with. But you kind of can see that it sits off to the side. It's a very small form factor case. It's not a large case. But it goes with that very aesthetically and pleasing design, and they've matched the colors with those headphones. So if you're looking for like a small format case, It's really cool. It's something they've done different. Now, there's been some recent reviews on this. It does get a little loud because of the mesh design, and it doesn't cool very well. So whatever you put in here, you probably don't want to do overkill on it, but it is very nice and aesthetically pleasing. And it's very subtle. So if you were to put this off to the side and you wanted to run like a media center PC or something like that, this is a very good opportunity for that. So it's really cool. And I've been really hyper fixated on small format cases lately. So everything I'm going to go over today is a small format case. So they're very small in footprint size. And as long as you're not looking for expansion, right? These work fantastic they can be as small or as large as the Xbox. Sometimes they run even smaller. I'm in downsizing mode. Not so much. I'm more interested in cramming as much stuff in there and the performance of it. So I just want to build in these things because they're super cool. So, and you can put like radiators and all different sorts of stuff in there. So really neat design. It's different. I'm happy to see Fractal and these teams doing something different than just kind of pumping out your same black chassis. So very neat in what they've done. The other case that they've done is what's called the Era. Now, the Era is really neat, and specifically the Era 2. So Fractal is the one that's come out with a very wood grain top, and that is real wood. And basically, it is another small form factor. It's what they call an ITX case, but they've enhanced it to where very similar to the last gen design, but they put this wood grain on top. And as you go through the different ones, some might be lighter, some might be darker, but they've given a nice aesthetic pleasing for what they're trying to do. So they're trying something different. They're doing something cool. It comes in white, comes in this really cool blue looking color. And then it comes in this actual, like, what are they calling it? Graphite or charcoal gray. Coming in charcoal gray. The blue is really cool looking, and I want it. And I want to put something in here, and I want to build it. So it's a little bit bigger than that Mood case, but again, very small form factor. Really, really nice. You can do water cooling capability in this one. They've got magnet ventilation panels. It's solid walnut on the top. It's a really solid looking case what they have. And if you're looking for something super small to kind of fit in that niche space and kind of keep it nice and clean, this is one of those to go after. So it hasn't been released yet, but it's definitely up there on the want. And that blue is really nice. It's almost like this Prussian blue. So it's really, they did a nice job on it. All right. One of the last cases, and I've actually built in these similar cases, this is what Celine was built in. Oh, there's wires. It's just marketing pictures, so they hide all the wires. It's not cat proof. You out of your mind? So the last but not least is the North XL. Now, I've built in the smaller brother of this called the North. And again, I've got actually one sitting over there. But this gives you that same wood accent that's there. You can get a mesh side or you can get a tempered glass side. The good thing about this is the older North, it does not fit, I think, ATX boards. I think it doesn't fit ATX boards. I got to go back and look. Or it doesn't fit extended ATX E boards. I think this allows for the larger format of the boards because it's the extra large, because I'm pretty sure I put an ATX board in Berkey's. So each one of these comes kind of like, if you take a look, the white one kind of gives you these silver buttons. If you take a look at the black case with kind of the dark walnut, you get more of the brass buttons on top. So a lot of different things that are coming. They've done a really good job on these designs. So top notch, and building in this case was fantastic, but it gives you a little bit more warm and aesthetically pleasing than just having like a black chassis on your desk. Or if you're trying to keep like a really clean workstation, you can kind of put these off to the side, or if it's sitting out, you wouldn't even know it's like a computer to a certain extent. It kind of just really blends in, and it's really nice to have something like that. So there's options that are out there, especially what you're trying to do. So again, this one worked really well for me. I've got a black one that's over there that I wanted to build in at some point. Also a few other things, but it's a good case. solid case. I'm glad they came out with a larger version of it to fit everything. Now, a couple other things that they're coming out with are the headsets, and they're calling it the Scape. Now, I want to say these are going to go for $199 is the price that I was seeing for these, and it's not loading anything. There we go. So these are pretty cool. So they come in two colors. They come in like this white, and they come in a black, and you can connect to them via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The microphone is detachable, so you don't have to have the microphone. I believe they get about 20 hours of battery life. They do have some subtle RGB and lighting on them as well. And they do have a rechargeable base. So even though they only get about 20 hours, when you're done, they're going to go back on that magnetic charger for that base, and you're just going to recharge them. So they call it a gaming headset, but it doesn't have that gaming headset style, which is kind of nice. So you're not flashy with a whole bunch of RGB and all that stuff, and you can recharge everything magnetically. So again, it matches each of the colors of the cases, which I really like how they've done that. So they're not like different color schemes. They've kept them within that. Are they heavy? I don't think they're super heavy, Damien. I don't. They're not released yet. There's a few folks that got to test them during Computex, and they've said they felt very light, and the cushions on the ears were very, very soft. So they were kind of shocked that, you know, they weren't like this super heavy type of headset. So very curious to see exactly when these come out. I think they're going to be about $200 from what I've been seeing. But you can connect them to Bluetooth. You can connect them to Wi-Fi on the PC. And I think they allow the dual connection as well. So you can receive calls from your phone while you're listening to music on your PC. I'm pretty sure it has that functionality. So you can connect to both and receive phone calls and all of that, which is really nice. So you don't have to like, you know, take a headset off, put one on. You can do both with those. So that's the scale or Scape. It's called the Scape. So, and those will be out soon. I don't know if I saw any dates, but they should be hopefully coming out soon. So yeah, those are the, God, this cold is killing me. So those are the kind of the top 3-4 things that I've seen that were interesting. Focused on Fractal today for the most part, just because they've had the most unique stuff that I've seen coming out that fit a lot of, I want to say, people's aesthetics at their home. Like being able to use something simple or that goes with how they're decorating their house or whatever it is. It's really nice to see that. So I'm really glad that they've got something different. It's not just like a beige box or a black box or, you know, your standard gaming. Like everybody throws, you know, RGB at it, right? They want their RGB, they want their lights, they want their flashiness, where most people at their house, they might not want, you know, somebody looking in from space to see their stuff on. Ugh. Stylish and minimalist. Yep, exactly. So, and I've been trending more towards that, Damien, with that stylish and minimalist piece of it, right? It's really nice to see something different in that space, and I really hope they continue it. They've also recently done a chair, and honestly, they call it a gaming chair, but there's no gaming logo on it, right? Which is really nice. And they've got different colors. They've got your black, they've got your, you know, grays, kind of an all gray, all black, and then kind of a mesh looking one. You want comfortability and working great over looks any day? Yeah. And I'll be honest. So I bit the bullet and at the same time bought 2 Herman Miller chairs, one for Space Cadet and one for myself. They were on sale and it was a discount and it was free delivery. And if you ever see or ever want to purchase the last chair you'll ever buy, just buy a Herman Miller chair. They are god awfully expensive, but if you can get them at 0% and you get them on sale, they're still like $1,000. But if you think back on how many office chairs you've purchased over your life that have either broken, they the cushions dissolve and sink down, whatever it may be. Those chairs average anywhere from 100 to 300, right? And you've probably bought, I don't know, maybe 3 of those in your life. This chair, the Herman Miller chair, it's got a 15-year warranty. You call Herman Miller, they'll send you out the piece, they replace it free of charge. So you have 15 years of chair use without any problems about having to replace your chair. And there's no more back pain, there's no more leg pain. You can sit in it for like 8 hours. They are fantastic chairs. Stupid expensive, but you get a 15-year warranty on them. And it literally, you just call them, shit broke, they send you the part. So it's half of your mortgage. It's like if you got a 15-year, it's your mortgage length at this point, right? If you got a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage. So it's insane. And call me crazy. We bought 2 of them. They were 0%. We financed them through the business. And honestly, I don't have pain. I went the gamer route and I bought the Titan Secret Labs chair that everybody wants, right? Those Titan Secret Labs chair. I hated it. And I spent $500 on that chair and I hated it. The cushion was like sitting on bricks. They use this cold foam technology and it's like sitting on a brick and it never softened up ever. And it hurt my back. It hurt my hip. It hurt everything. Soon as I swapped it out, all the pain went away. And now it sits over there getting unused since I purchased it. And I hated it almost 2 weeks after I bought it. You couldn't return it. So if you plan on being in a chair or you work in a chair a long time, just like a mattress, buy a good chair. Just if you can expense it, if you can find a way to get rid of it or whatever it is, just it goes a long way. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. All right. So we have one last thing for today. You'll need girl math. Corgi Chica, if you are looking for a really comfortable computer chair, you can find the Herman Millers used. They do refurbish them, and you can get them used relatively cheap, and it's the same quality. Unless you find something that's on sale. Like the only reason we bought the Herman Millers was because they were on sale. And I mean, they were knocked like $400 off each. So we got 2 chairs for like $1,600 shipped. And here's the best part. When those chairs arrived, you didn't have to assemble them. The box is inside the box. They tell you where to open and the chair rolls out. All you do is set the chair up. It's already put together. The wheels are on it. The chair's on it. The whole compressor's on it. The arms are on it. You just unboxed it and rolled it to wherever you wanted. You didn't have to build anything. It came built. Like I fully thought I was going to get this chair and I was going to have to put the wheels and shit on it. Nope. 2 big ass FedEx boxes came in, like massive. They were huge. And it literally says open here. You pulled it back and the chair was facing you. And you just wheeled the chair right out. And then you just took the chair wherever you wanted it to go. It was done. Like you didn't have to do shit. And I was like, this is fantastic. Like Janessa, excited about simplest things. Not having to put together a chair after how many office chairs I've put together my entire life, that makes me happy. That makes me happy. Don't ask me why. It's like PJs on a Saturday. I don't want to do shit. I just want to be in my PJs. That makes me happy. That's how we tell we're old, right? I think that's part of like how old are you when the simplest things make you happy, like wheeling a chair up that's already built for you, where you don't have to build it. Could you imagine all the IKEA furniture you buy was just built out of the box? All you had to do was put it on the wall. How happy would that make you? I mean, it'd probably be stupid expensive, but how happy would that make you? You can get back time spent, less time building. You can get to gaming right away, Dustin. You can just roll that chair and be like, all right, I'm ready to go. You don't have to sit down and build it or find missing parts or read the instructions. You save a lot of time. Or look for your Allen wrenches. Yeah. Or the crappy Allen wrench they give you to put the actual chair together, Tim, right? They give you that crappy Allen wrench where you drop it 500 million times when you're putting it together. Like that's what they do. Like, here's this little Allen wrench like this big, right? And you're going to put this whole chair together and your fingers are sore by the time you're done, or you can't find your Allen wrenches and you drop it 10 times because damn things aren't magnetic, right? So you're spinning it all day long. Then you got to tighten the other one up, then the other one. Oh, it was brutal. You have extra screws. They don't tell you they're spares, right? Right? All right. Last thing that I have for today is some fun things that I found. This is a little bit different. It's not even tech related. This is a company that I found, and I actually saw these on drop.com. It's called atomstoastronauts.com. Now, if you guys haven't heard of this company, because I sure as hell didn't, they do planners and notebooks and all different sorts of stuff. And basically, you can get these custom notebooks. They're like $20. They're made in the UK and they're printed in the UK and they ship them over. But they are super cool. So I'll give you guys an example here. So each one, there's tons of different options that you can pick from. So basically, you've got engineering collection, physics collection, and space collection. They also have planners and certain bundles. But look at all the options you get. You get the space exploration like A5, and they are a little pricey, like $30 a pop for a planner. But you get chemistry hardcovers, classical physics, computer science, quantum, astronomy, anatomy, microbiology, neuroscience, and they're all like custom, like with real art from real things. So if you take a look at like the space exploration one, like this is actually the Apollo sketches that they've grabbed and they've put onto these actual books. So very cool. They've worked with the actual people to put all this stuff together, like real mechanical diagrams, stuff that came straight out of like NASA and everything else. So they've worked pretty diligently to transpose these over. Now they're throwaway notebooks, right? They're $30 for a throwaway notebook, but super cool. I came across them on drop.com at one point and they were sold out. So if you're looking for them on sale, check out drop.com. But really neat. If you're looking for like a little notebook, and you can get different paper linings on the inside as well. So you can do like dot grids or grid squares or blank pages or lines. So all different sorts of things for different notebooks. I thought it was pretty neat. They do have planners as well. Again, same concept for the planner. If you want to do something from a planner and the dates, the monthly goals. Again, really cool. If you're looking for like a gift or something for somebody, throw them out there. It's really neat if somebody has a preference on like, you know, hey, I want a notebook to go for like space, physics, engineering. They got all sorts of stuff. So I came across this, thought it was really neat. Figured I'd share it with you guys as well. They got all different sorts of different groups, different areas, different colors, math and chemistry or geology. So great for like back to school, stuff like that. Even though school's out, maybe remember it if you guys have kids and you're looking for back to school stuff. This could maybe go far away, but these were kind of neat. There were some other things that I was going to throw out here. Like I found a really cool USB charger that was like an LED panel that would pop up. I didn't list it, and I didn't list it because the power charging on it was abysmal. So you can't even charge like your cell phone on it. So it looked really cool and it was like $60. But if I'm not going to buy it, I'm not going to tell you guys to go and check it out because the reviews were awful on it. And when you looked at where it was made and how it was made and what they put into it, it looks really cool for like a desk piece, but it's not going to be functional at all. And for $60, not functional, I'm not doing it. So, but I thought this would be pretty cool. People like to write, you know, different books, different styles. But yeah, atomstoastronauts.com. Go check them out. They're pretty cool. Again, none of that's sponsored here. Just something that I found that was really neat. That's different than your tech stuff. So if you got gifts or want to give something away or whatever it is, these are pretty cool. And they were actually cheaper. I think they went up in price. I think they were like $28. I think they've gone up to 30, 32 now. But still, it's a notebook. if you're interested in something like that, that's what we've got. All right. So that is the last thing that I had on my agenda, on my list for tonight. So I will open it up to all of you.